Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having me and the rest of the committee. So I'm very excited to be here actually as a proponent for this bill. So just a little background. So I have a PhD in biology. My entire dissertation has focused exclusively on the ornate box turtle. Since then, I've gotten an assistant professorship. I'm in my fourth year, and of those 4 years, um, in my position, I've continued to study box turtles. So I'm in my 10th year of studying box turtles.
Could you turn the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you with that? And if you're comfortable leaving your mask on, that's fine. If not, we can hear a little better. So
Is everybody okay with it off?
that's
Okay.
better. We can hear you better now.
All right.
So thank you. Continue.
All right, so like I said, I'm in my 10th year of studying box turtles professionally, and I've done just a lot of work in a lot of different aspects of turtle ecology. And today I sort of had three separate things I'd like to discuss with you all to kind of get you guys thinking about why this bill is important, whether or not we proceed with this version or the version that was suggested earlier. But first, I'd like to just talk about the ecology of a box turtle. And I could talk about the ecology of box turtles all day, and I know you're not necessarily here to hear about ecology. This is like my pride and passion. But there's a few important things that I think we need to consider when we're thinking about this bill and why it's so important that we don't allow collections from the wild, especially at 5 at a time. And first, the current bill says, or the current legislation says that a person could have 5 in their possession at any time, which means a family of 5 people could have 25 turtles in their house. So there's kind of a loophole right away that you can have a lot of turtles with a small group of people collecting. But for the ecology itself, so these turtles live to be 40, typically around 35 to 40 years old, but as you probably all heard, they can live to be up to 100 years old. The problem with box turtles in their life history is that they don't reproduce until they're 10 or 15 years old. So they have to make it to 10 or 15 before they even reproduce. Any single clutch will only be 3 to 5 eggs, and most clutches, they have complete loss. No individuals will make it to adulthood. In fact, for one turtle that lives for 50 years, it'll be a successful turtle if they successfully recruit one individual to replace them as a breeding adult. So any single turtle you remove from the habitat, you're removing permanently an individual from that population, will then continually escalate the decline of populations over time. Right, you're just getting fewer and fewer adults that are breeding, and your population will decline over time. Since I've been in Kansas, I cannot tell you guys the number of people that have told me that, hey, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, we saw turtles all the time. And as Diane just mentioned, you don't see them nearly as much as you used to. Right? And the problem is what we're doing now, you won't see until 15 years later. I have a whole bunch of articles, and I'm going to go through a few just to kind of highlight some stuff. But basically, the idea is our actions that we're doing today, you won't see necessarily decline until 15 years from now, and you'll continually see that decline moving forward. So I think it's sort of our goal and role to prevent that decline now, so that 15 years from now, that decline may stop or slow. So that's the sort of the life history component of these turtles. I do want to talk about some importances of the turtle as well. So why do we even care that turtles exist in our habitat? For a lot of people, you think of a turtle and you just think of this like useless, slow creature with a heavy shell that just wanders around and doesn't do much. That's actually not the case. So most of my studies focus on the ecology of these turtles. We put radio transmitters on turtles and we track them and we find what they do, and we look at behaviors and we look at important outcomes of turtle activity. And beyond a number of things, they are particularly important in seed and spore dispersal. They eat lots of fruits, they eat lots of fungus that then get dispersed elsewhere. Their gut is successful at germinating seeds and spores that other creatures are not successful at germinating. Therefore, turtles can be considered a keystone and ecosystem architect for restructuring habitat. So they're important for reintroducing native plants back to local habitat. In addition to seed and spore dispersal, they also are important predators for lots of pests. So they eat lots of insects and other things that most people don't like. Right? So they're eating things that are invasive. They're eating things that without box turtles will get out of control. In addition, they eat eggs, so they will raid ground nests. They'll eat small rodents, believe it or not. They eat frogs and toads. So they have an important role in trophic cascades as well. They have an important top-down effect. In addition to their top-down, actually, I like to joke with my students that they're an apex predator because as adults they don't eat, nothing eats them, but they eat everything. In fact, I have pictures of them eating dead deer, and I have a picture of one eating a dead coyote. So the turtle has one. So in addition to being important top-down effect, they also eat carrion. Eating carrion, as we may know, is really important for preventing the spread of disease. Turtles are important for eating dead things so disease and bacteria and whatnot won't spread. Right? So they are filling a role that something like a turkey vulture may also fill, but they're doing it as an ectotherm. Ectotherms are cold-blooded. That's the sort of old school term we use, but basically they have lower metabolic rates, which means we can in theory sustain high numbers of them, and they can do a lot of ecosystem services. I think there's a few people that have done cattle ranching. I have a number of field sites where my students and I do research. Again, I won't disclose them for lots of reasons, but basically poachers target field sites where people do research. Poachers will go to conferences, figure out where people are doing their research, and then go and poach those lands. That is absolutely 100% true. And there's a number of people with PhDs that have said that. That's a problem. Personally, I collaborate with someone at Coe College in Iowa, and they have two major populations. It's basically the box turtle study site over the last 40 years. It's an amazing place. One of their populations got disclosed, and now it's gone. They've been poached. People were caught in the act poaching these turtles, but not until it's too late. And that population is functionally extinct, which means there's no a possibility of them returning on their own accord. They'll have to be reintroduced by us. For the cattle ranchers, though, turtles are really, really important for breaking down cow patties. That's the term I use. There's probably a better term for that. Basically, what they do is they go into the cow patty, they eat out the bugs, but they also eat out the partially digested grass materials. So they're able to get a lot of nutrients. But more importantly, what they do to a cow patty is they spread it around and they smoosh it all around on the habitat. And so instead of having this hard block that you get that grass can't grow through, instead you have nice fertilized land that grass will grow through. And I have a number of ranchers who I work with that say, hey, the turtles are great because they do this for me, right? So any rancher I've ever interacted with says turtles are great for their property if they truly know what's going on with their property. So that's sort of the ecology and why we should care. I could talk to you about a million other reasons why we should care about turtle ecology, but I'm going to move on. I'm feeling like some people are looking kind of bored. This is like really, really exciting for me, by the way. I wasn't going to bring this up when I was told I should. I have been studying box turtles and turtles in general since I was 5. And kind of like how you have like 4-year-olds that are obsessed with dinosaurs and like know more about dinosaurs than you do as an adult. That's how I was with turtles, but I just never moved away from turtles like anybody else. So I just like continually have grown my knowledge of turtles. And speaking of dinosaurs, the turtles have outlasted the dinosaur. They existed before the dinosaur. They persisted through 2 ice ages, and they continue to live on. Their biggest threat now is us, which is kind of a shame. So the turtle, in addition to their importance ecologically, I'd also like to just kind of point out a few of these articles I brought. I'm not going to read them through. It seems like hopefully people get an idea. But and before I forget, we're talking about, this is just a fun fact. People who are mentioning eating turtles, people do eat turtles, particularly snapping turtles, alligator snapping turtles, and some of the larger aquatic turtles. People don't eat box turtles, and if they are, they're making a potentially life-threatening mistake. Turtles eat a lot of fungus, and then they sequester these toxins, and there are records of people dying from eating box turtles because they're basically poisoning themselves by eating turtles. All right, so if culturally people out west or wherever are eating box turtles, I've not heard of that. People have not eaten turtles in any sort of record that I've seen, box turtles that is, ever. This is something that we're like, hey, yeah, turtles are not a thing we should be eating. If you look at the coloration of turtles, you can actually see in their oranges and yellows that they are sequestering those toxins, and they sequester as yellow and red carotenoids, which is why they have that beautiful coloration. The unfortunate part about that beautiful coloration is it makes them an ideal target species for collectors. And so that's sort of the issue that I'd like to bring up next, which is poaching. And that's the part of this bill that I think that we're not talking too much about, but is the important part no matter how we go about addressing it. And that is, this is a stack, and I know people online can't see this, but this is a stack of articles, popular news articles, specifically addressing box turtle poaching in North America. We're talking ranging from 10,000, a few cases were 20 to 200, and then 10,000, all these things. There are 7 box turtle species in the North America. The ornate box turtle is one of them. I'd also like to mention that I propose that we also add to this the three-toed box turtle, which is equally basically endangered as well in terms of their likelihood to persist. Right now, the current bill says ornate box turtle. I say we strike ornate and just leave it as box turtle. I don't know if I can say that now, but that's a suggestion. But these articles are basically stating and showing that poaching is a real problem. So if anybody wants to see these, I've not made these up. These are real. I mentioned I started collecting turtle or studying turtles since I was like 6. I asked my mom 2 nights ago to go through an old binder at my house in Pennsylvania where there's eastern box turtles, and she collected for me 12 articles that I printed off about poaching as early as 2003. So this is a problem in the United States. It's a problem in the United States because there are no box turtles left in Asia. All populations are critically endangered or extinct, and so the Asian markets are predominantly where turtles are shipped to. And so since there are no turtles in Asia, people are focusing their efforts more on United States turtles, U.S. Turtles. And these articles show that. You could kind of see the trend, and they start off in Asian poaching, and now they have shifted to North American poaching. So poaching is a real problem, and again, I don't really know how else to prove that to you besides just kind of reading these, which I won't do, but hopefully you see that. Am I at time?
Kind of.
Okay.
If you could wrap it up.
Can I say one more thing about the cultural relevance? So I think the important. So one, they're the state reptile, by the way. We have 33 states with state reptiles. 20 of them are turtles. So people care about turtles and like them, but they know nothing about them. But they are culturally relevant too, aside from just being the state reptile, especially for Native Americans. So my family's like part Native American. So we, understand the role and importance of any wild creature, that their importance, but also recognize that they do have a utility, but also just the learning component. The secondary cultural component is the turtle races. And I just like to point out that I think we need to rethink what it means to educate a kid on turtles. So it's taking a turtle from the wild, taking 5 turtles from the wild, throwing them in a pool with 100 other turtles, and seeing if they walk to the perimeter quickly. I'm not sure what we're teaching a turtle. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing them, but I think we should rethink how we educate kids about turtles. My biggest thing is we should really educate people about turtles by watching turtles in the wild, not taking them out of their homes into our home, because indoor behavior or captive bred behavior does not reflect turtle behavior in the wild. I could talk for hours, so I'm going to stop, but thank you for having me, and thank you for listening. I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Would it be possible, if all the material is interesting, we only have an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, no, I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
If you would leave that with Representative Gardner or one of us, and
Sure.
if folks want to take at their time, again, when the Chiefs are up by 50 points at halftime, you can read. No, I don't know, but no, I appreciate it. Any questions for Dr. Reed? Representative Shu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. This is just a comment, but it is genuinely refreshing seeing you here. We hear from a lot of lobbyists, no offense, who are very used to being up there, and it is obvious that you're not used to being up there. It is obvious how much you care about this issue, and I think we're all enriched from hearing your testimony today. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's my first time here, so thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Very good. Representative Minix.
We've already been told that humans seems to be the biggest source of the loss to the box turtle, and yet you say when they lay eggs past the age of 10 and they can live to 35, are there any other causes? Are there any other predators to the box turtle that we might need to consider if you're going to try to preserve this?
That is a great question. So I'm going to start by saying, most turtle mortality nowadays is because of tillers, plows, but mostly roads, mostly cars and vehicles on roads. People mowing grass is like the number one, besides cars, that I see, because I have turtles all the time that have transmitters on that clearly were killed by some sort of a piece of equipment. So that's number one still. So humans are top 7 for reasons why turtles die. After that, then as juveniles, as young as hatchlings, well, first you do have egg predation by coyotes and fox and badgers and possums and raccoons, and all those creatures I just listed will also, and bobcats will consume them until they reach a certain size, where basically they're too big for the jaws of these creatures. Their shells have hardened, their plastron and their carapace for the top and bottom have solidified, and these animals can no longer chew through them, and even raccoons can't pry them open. So once they reach adulthood, the only thing that's killing them are humans, and that has been true in the past as well. Turtles were like have been the most successful vertebrate group for eons. It's just by kilograms per hectare. Just more turtles out there per acre or hectare than any other creature. And there's lots of reasons that I won't get into for why, but they are successful. Humans are the reason they're dying now.
You recognize this?
Yeah, that looks like pollution. Yeah.
And it lands in our habitat area out there.
Yeah.
And we see turtles. My wife's a veterinarian. I can show you pictures of baby kifs.
Speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
We Mylar balloons don't degrade within the environment. A turtle will try to take one in and suffocate.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's lots of other causes besides the predators out there and some other things that humans do that also cause a problem. Are you willing to?
Sure. I could definitely, yeah, again, I could talk all day. So in addition to human activity related to machinery, I mean, obviously habitat loss just in general is a big killer of turtles. Habitat fragmentation off by railroads and by roadways also is a huge problem for turtles. These turtles range huge amounts of distance. So I track them. Like I said, we put transmitters on them. They cover, some turtles every year cover an area the size of 120 football fields. For a little turtle that's 5 to 6 inches long, that's huge. So they need a lot of habitat. They're wandering around looking for mates and resources and that type of thing. Other turtles don't move around nearly as much, but they're also highly phylopatric. And what that means is, and some of you probably have experienced this, like you have a garden, you like always have a turtle that shows up every year. You just expect to see a turtle. That's their home. Their home may be a big area, but they return and use that same area every year. So anything we do in their home will kill them. So things like water pollution, soil pollution. A big thing that is a problem is when people are using fertilizers and pesticides. Those are also things in addition to other pollutants that will kill turtles. It's not a good time to be a turtle. It's not a good time to be any wild animal. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Representative Haswood.
I had a similar question, so I will take back. But
Very
thank
good.
you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the turtles are being taken to put in people's ponds for decoration and use.
And they're fully terrestrial. So those people do put them in ponds all the time and they drown because they don't know what a box turtle is.
Okay, so that was my question is I have a backyard pond. I would love to have a turtle, except they're escape artists.
Yes.
So you have to have like an 18-inch fence up and down. So that I'm wondering, okay, you take this ornate turtle to your pond and then it escapes or dies. So then people just keep getting more and more, like it's a non-ending problem?
I cannot tell you, again, the number of stories I've had people tell me in the past 10 years or longer where people say they found a turtle, they put it in their pond. I'm like, well, first of all, this is a terrestrial turtle. They're technically capable of swimming, but they will eventually drown because they're not an aquatic turtle. If they somehow don't drown, they will walk away because, again, they're extremely phylopatric. Similar to sea turtles, which we're all familiar with, they go out thousands of miles, return the exact same nesting beach to lay their eggs. These are what box turtles do too. They go out at super far distances, but they return to the site that they were born at to lay their own eggs. So this is called nest site fidelity. But they also have what we call home range phylopatry, which is they want to live where basically they've imprinted on a particular habitat area. So if you move a turtle, the turtle tries to get back to where they want to go. They have superior navigation ability compared to lots of other animals. And so they die trying to get back to where they're trying to go. And the people are sad, kids are sad, and they try to go get another turtle. And it's just not, so as you said, it's a non-ending process. And, you know, collecting one at a time doesn't solve the problem, but it's better than 5 at a time. So.
Right. Thanks. And I really appreciate your enthusiasm and the knowledge we're getting today.
Other questions? One quick one. What you did just your dissertation where?
I did at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in Lincoln, Nebraska. Most of my field work was done at Cedar Point Biological Station, which is in western Nebraska. It's amongst a whole bunch of ranch land.
So you did your bachelor's from there too? As
No,
well?
I did my bachelor's in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
Mansfield University, north central Pennsylvania, kind of middle of nowhere.
So is that where you're from then?
Yes, yeah,
And so Nebraska has,
turtles. Nebraska, so north central Pennsylvania is a cold climate, and there's not a lot of turtles there. There are some painted turtles, sliders, that type of thing. But yeah, my focus has always been on the box turtle and its plight. So there was a position open in Nebraska to study them, and I took it, and now I'm here.
and here being
Topeka. I'm operating out of Topeka.
as just as a freelancer or a,
I'm an assistant professor at Washburn University, and part of my position includes research, but that's the part that you probably could figure out that I love doing. So yeah.
very good, interesting. All right, thank you. No other questions? Okay, we'll keep moving. Proponent, next up, Mr. Dennis.